Hey guys, welcome back to Thunderdome Homestead. So today, this is what I'm getting into. I am canning pickles, yay! So I got a whole bunch of pickles right now, and figure the best way to do them up is to do hamburger dill pickle chips. And I'm gonna take you guys along for the ride. So here's what you'll need. So this here's about 10 pounds of pickle slices. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I have the Mrs. Wages pickle mix, which you need cucumbers, vinegar, must be 5% acidity, has to be. If you find anything less, it ain't going to work for any canning purposes. So water, and then a pouch of this stuff. Some of the tools you'll need. Not all of them are necessary, but I like having them. This right here and these guys are jar grabbers. So these jars are going to be hot, and you don't want to be touching them with your hands. This here's a funnel for canning, just makes things easier sometimes. This guy, you poke down into the jar to get all the air bubbles out, and it also has a measuring stick on there to be able to tell you need a certain amount of head space in your jars with all the liquid in it. And this thing is a magnet. It grabs the lids out of the hot water because you can see here, back here, I got this heating up. I'm going to put the lids in there because that sanitizes them in the hot water. You want it to be boiling for about 10 minutes. This guy here is my brine. It is the vinegar. This stuff's going to go in there once it's warmed up a bit. And then water. This here is my canning pot. So you see this little rack down in the bottom. Any pot for the most part will do. You just need something to keep them glass jars off the bottom, because if they're on the bottom, they're probably going to crack and break, and it'll be a mess. You don't want to deal with it. So you need something down there in the bottom to keep it up off the bottom. And the oven, as you can see, is heated up because I have my jars washed, and I'm going to go throw them in this preheated oven at about 250 degrees for 10 minutes. That sterilizes the jars. So you have your jars sterilized, you have the lids sterilized, and you're going to want to keep those all hot while you add your pickles and your brine in there. And you're going to process them in here once it's heated up. You want the water to be over top. This is called water bath canning. And you want the water to be over top of the jars. So I'm going to walk you through this process. If a redneck like me can do it, anybody can do it. And I'll be back in a couple minutes. Alright guys, I'm back. So, as you can see, the lids here have been boiling for 10 minutes. The jars have been the jars have been sanitizing in the oven for 10 minutes. Our brine is hot and mixed together well. And our canner is up to a boil. So now we're going to pull our jars out. We're going to pack them with our pickles. And then we're going to top with our brine and fill it up. Alright. Fill our jar with our pickles. They work better this way. The best we can. Now be careful, because these jars are hot. Alright. Fill it up till you got about a 1/2 inch headspace. I'm going to do this with a couple more jars and come back to you. Alright, so the next step here, once you have stuff in your jars, you take your hot liquid, you see that's in there, you pour it, and then you take either a butter knife or something like this, and you just poke it all around, down in the middle, down in the sides. You're pushing all your air bubbles out of there. And you're pushing your pickles further down into the liquid so you can fit more pickles in there. You want all of those air bubbles out of there that could affect your steel. Got air bubbles, you're going to have a bad time, man. Now you guys watch South Park. You might recognize that. Alright. So, throw a couple more in there, top it off. And that should be good. Now you can see here, it's still kind of hot. You're right about there is where your liquid comes up to. That's about a 1/2 inch, a little more than a 1/2 inch, but about a 1/2 inch. And then you're gonna take a paper towel, wet paper towel, and you're gonna wipe all the rims. These are new jars, so I've already checked them for cracks and chips around the edge here, but if they're not new jars especially, you want to check for things like that. Just get any potential solids or junk off of there. And anything that would keep it from sealing up good. And then from there, you're going to take your magnet and grab one of your lids like so. You center your lid on there. Take your ring, put it on hand tight, or finger tight, I should say. Now you're going to do that with all your jars. I have a couple more jars to do, but I'm showing you the process. Now that everything's sterilized, finger tight. And then, while all of this is still hot, you're going to put it in your water bath canner. So I'll show you that process once I'm done with the rest of these. Alright guys, you're going to want to be careful during this next part. You definitely want your jar grabbers. You're going to slowly drop each jar down in. Be very careful. I could fit about 4 jars in here. Now, I'm going to put this thing on, and I'm going to process it for 10 minutes, and then go from there. Alright, out comes the last jar. And what you're going to want to do here is put them in a cool, dark place away from any activity on something like this towel here. And you're going to want to cover them up with another towel and keep them out of sunlight. So, there. Now they're going to sit there for about 24 hours. And then at that point, you're going to take the rings off. And what I like to do, by that time they'll be cooled down and good to go. What I like to do to see if they're actually sealed is once the rings are off, you grab them just by the little lip of the lid. So, I'll show you with this one here. So, just on the lid, you grab them, and if the jar doesn't drop when you're holding it by the lid, the weight of the jar, that means it's sealed up good. So I'm going to process this last one because that's all I have left. And I'm by no means an expert at this. I actually am kind of a newbie. But if you're going to do this, you definitely want to follow you want a good canning book that gives you instructions of how and what to do. And you want to follow that to a T. I wouldn't recommend to do any rebel canning or anything that varies from the safe, tried and true practices. All of these stuff have been tried and true and tested for years and years and years, and I mean decades. So this stuff, I mean, it's put in place for your safety. So try to follow it as best you can. Anyhow, hopefully you guys got something out of this. If you did, hit that like button. Please subscribe and share with your friends. I'll talk to you guys later.